people, they're trying to make out that ISIS is an aberration. It's something quite apart from mainstream Islam, but it is not. Actually, if you go through the Quran, everything that ISIS are doing in Syria is justifiable through verses from the Quran. So when ISIS, they start beheading people, that comes from Quran 8:12. I will cast terror into the hearts of those who disbelieve. Therefore, strike off their heads and strike off their fingertips. When they crucify people in Syria, that comes from Quran 5:33. The punishment of those who wage war against Allah and his apostle is that they should be murdered or crucified. Burning unbelievers, you remember they had a couple of occasions now. The famous one was the Jordanian pilot, where they burnt him to death. That comes from Quran 22:19. Garments of fire have been prepared for the Kufr unbeliever. Scalding water will be poured upon their heads to melt their skins and their bellies, and they shall be lashed with rods of hooked iron. I've got a list here of about 500 verses that are similar to that, So we're talking end to end, from start to finish of the Quran. It's a book of hatred. It's a book of divisions. It's a book of subjugating other peoples, subjugating the Kufr unbelievers, which includes the people of the book, the Jews and the Christians. And as a good Muslim, and it can be pointed out to you, this is what it says. As a good Muslim, you must do what God says. And God says, kill the unbeliever. The Quran is directed at the people of the book, the Jews and the Christians. Do not be friends with Jews or Christians, etc. It says these are direct commands from God about modern society, effectively. If you go on to religionofpeace.com, you will see that there have been 31,000 deadly attacks of terror. How many have been perpetrated by any other religion around the world? Quran 13:40. Do they not see how we invade their lands and diminish their borders? Fleeing to another country and taking it over was a part of their religious structure. I think it says it about 3 or 4 times within the Quran. The problem at present is a problem of Islam. And nobody is standing up to it and telling the truth and allowing us to debate what Islam is all about. They immediately say that this, it's oppression by the white people. That's not true at all. When they did a study of the average earnings of the different populations within Britain, the highest earning population was the Hindu population, followed fairly closely by the Sikh population. There is no overt discrimination within the society that stops these people doing well. What stops Muslims doing well, and of course they're right at the bottom of our society in terms of earnings, is the Quran, is Islam. Islam effectively over the last 1,000 years has been parasitic. It's actually done nothing for civilization. It is very, very poor at nation building, at providing wealth, about providing freedom. Well, as per the Quran, the native Muslims do precious little to actually maintain their society and their nations. So we have this dichotomy on the left, because it's normally the left complaining about Islamophobia and everything. They will complain vociferously about any criticism of Islam, but they will not criticize the fact that Saudi Arabia has apartheid and nobody bar Muslims are allowed into Mecca. Trump wants to stop some immigration from various countries for fairly obvious reasons, and there's an outcry. Saudi Arabia has the same travel bans from pretty much the same sort of countries, and there's no outcry at all. Muhammad was a warlord. He was not a prophet. He was a warlord. He was a camel raider based in Medina, going out and raiding all the camel trains that used to go across the Saudi deserts. And which is why chapter 8 of the Quran is called the Spoils of War. It details how all of the booty that they got was split up, and Muhammad got 20%. So he was no Robin Hood. And then he suspected that the Jews of Medina of siding with the Meccans. And so he lined up all the men, 900 men of the Banu Qurayza, and he beheaded them all. The very foundation of his religion was based on the genocide of the Jews of Medina. Islam itself I rename as being the Great Protection Racket. because that's what it is. It's not a religion. It was never designed as a religion. It was designed as a protection racket. Do as I say, otherwise I kill you. That's what the Covenant of Dimitude was all about. You know, that the Christians of the East were ruled by a small clique of Muslims, and you had to abide by the Covenant of Dimitude. And if you didn't, pay your respect and submit to the will of Islam, you were killed. All through its history, it has been a protection racket. Do as we say, respect us, do not criticize us, otherwise we kill you. And that's why we have, people like, the Charlie Hebdo murders and so on. They were killed because they criticized Islam, because they drew an image of Muhammad. So that's why it is a protection racket. It always has been. It should not be classed as a religion.